No bounty hunter were harmed during production of this episode, yet, but if you won't subscribe this channel or like this video, this situation may change.
Hi, I'm Jakub and this is the channel you are looking for. Today I bring you good tidings of great joy. Boba Fett is alive. He survived the fall to the Sarlacc pit. He was seen just 2 years after that accident in 1985 in the Polish toy shops. He got transfigured, he lost his own limbs. In the same time he gained new ones, taken from the biker scout trooper. We will learn all about this in the present episode, together with some more news, statistics, baroque music and Polish words like elektrospółdzielnia and szczawiowa. We will also learn how to cook szczawiowa, one of the most characteristic Polish soups. Take a look at the chapter list below and choose your favorite section. May the force be with you. Move along. There was a big difference between last 2 decades of Poland behind the Iron Curtain. The 1970s was a decade of relative stabilization and prosperity. The government took insanely huge loans from Western countries, built a lot of infrastructures and factories, started to produce licensed Coca-Cola and Pepsi, as well as very popular little car on the license of Fiat. All that delusion collapsed at the end of the decade, which provoked mass protest when workers and intellectuals joined together under the shield of Solidarity movement. That led to the martial law period, dark and grim, with curfew hours, economic disaster, and empty shelves in the shops. For a couple of years, we had only limited portions of meat, no exotic fruits or chocolate, for example. The nation in general was very depressed and contested a lot the regime. In that circumstances, the premiere of Empire Strikes Back in 1983 provoked a number of metaphors to our political situation in Poland. But nevertheless, the movie was mostly popular amongst the youngsters, which caused the reaction of toy makers' market. After the cancellation of martial law in 1983, they started to produce next series of Polish bootlegs. Those producers had to be registered as so-called cooperatives and to collaborate with the authorities, but still they were purely private entrepreneurs. In 1984, or a bit earlier, first characters of the first unarticulated series appeared. In 1985, they were already very common, counted 17 patterns. In the same year, an iconic elektrospółdzielnia series of 20 carded characters started to be available in shops. Possibly also in 1985, Polish kids could already buy 88 and Wojownik Imperium figures. The big adventure has begun.
Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep. Statistic, yep.
Regarding the scale of production, we may say about 5 bootleg empires existing in the 1980s: Mexico, Brazil, Turkey, Hungary and Poland. No other country copied the Kenner figures with such intensity and in such a quantity. If we count only the Kenner origin bootlegs, the 5 mentioned empires together made 73 out of 93 basic characters. It is hard to count the real number of patterns in Mexico, but we may assume they produced at least 53 characters in many variants. Brazilian Model Trem Company released 34 characters made of lead. Turkish Uzay series contained 12 characters, 2 of them appeared twice under different names and looks. The Hungarian 2 series counted 11 characters altogether, with Darth Vader appearing in both series. The Polish line of Kenner copies counted 35 characters in several series and variants. Only 4 characters were made by all 5 countries: Darth Vader, Chewbacca, Snowtrooper and C-3PO. 5 others were copied by 4 countries. 11 appeared in 3 countries, and 20 characters were available in at least 2 of bootleg empires. The remaining 33 characters were ascribed exclusively to a single country. None of them was Hungarian, 1 was Turkish, 6 came from Brazil, 7 from Poland and 19 from Mexico. All but 1 Polish singles were made in 2 different series, movable and unarticulated. Hoth Rebel Soldier and Lando General were made with Biker Scout limbs. Pruneface appeared with TIE Fighter pilot arms and legs. The movable version of AT-ST Driver were equipped in both Scout or pilot limbs, while the unarticulated one came only with Biker Scouts. AT-AT Commander had the Biker Scout limbs in movable version and proper cannon shape within the unarticulated series. Movable Barada took the TIE Fighter pilot arms and legs, while unarticulated Barada was cannon-shaped. Also, the cannon-like mold appeared in the case of Rebel Commando figure, which was present in unarticulated series only.
What have we here?
There is no better example of the influence of popular collecting focus on the value of particular item than the Polish Boba Fett figure. In comparison with other characters made in Poland, Fett is one of the most numbered, counting today much over 100 examples in each of 2 series it appeared. Nevertheless, there is such a great need of that fashionable bootleg figure and its variants that its value stands constantly very high on the scale of Polish bootlegs prices. The situation may be caused by the fact that only 2 other bootleg empires produced this character, Hungary and Mexico, and possibly due to the fact that the limbs were taken from a different character, the Biker Scout, which was unique for the Polish figure. First appearance of Boba Fett in Poland took place in 1985 as a part of Elektrospółdzielnia series. This great set of 20 characters sold on cards with bubbles was known of the Canny limb modification. Most of the figures were equipped with Biker Scout arms and legs, and so was Boba Fett. Furthermore, the producers of the other series, Unarticulated One, copied the Elektrospółdzielnia character with wrong limbs again. Thus, we have no proper shape of Boba Fett in Poland, though all components were taken from the Kenner origins. Let's take a look at the movable Elektrospółdzielnia figure this time. In 1985, it was packed in a bubble attached to the rectangle card created especially for this series. The card graphics contained the Polish titles of Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, as well as a couple of drawings, including the exploding Y-Wing. The design was the same for all 20 characters of the series in 3 color variants: dark blue, light blue and later also red, with slight differences of graphics colors. The back of the card was empty, stamped by the company's stamp and price, which was 140 zloty, about 30 cents at that time. The bubble was made of translucent plastic, pinned to the card by 2 or more staples. This was the package for the figures that we call today a first generation. It has changed, however, about 1989, when it was replaced by the square card with drawn Biker Scout on the bike, Return of the Jedi series logo and the name and address of the company on the front. A couple of years later, another square card appeared using a photocopy of fragments of a Return of the Jedi Kenner Stormtrooper card. The last known package made by this company for Star Wars figures was the smaller rectangle glossy blue card shared with the Masters of the Universe series. This was no longer Elektrospółdzielnia label though, but a new name called Evanplast. Also, a lot of latest generation figures were sold loose. We may assume the production stopped about 2005 or even later, making this series the longest run of all Polish series. In 2014, most of the original molds of Elektrospółdzielnia Evanplast surfaced on the collector's market, which allowed us to see the mold of the torso of Boba Fett. The difference between generations lies not only in the packages. The most important was the change of limb joints shape from conical to rounded one. Also, the painting details proves us the generation of the particular figure. First generation Boba Fett was molded usually of light grey but also dark grey or dark green rubber, soft to hard, with mostly the same painting scheme. There were green or blue color on the chest, belly and girth belt, red details on the helmet as well as the red rocket on the back, gold visor and black, brown or plum gloves and boots. Some unique examples could have unpainted belly, girth belt or limbs. The most interesting painting appeared on the rare second-generation figures, having the closest look to the Kenner original. No belly paint, green chest and neck, orange-yellow shoulders and knees, brown visor, belt, pockets and girth belt, red rocket, helmet and elbow details, dark blue backpack. It lasted very short though. Later generations came back to the first generation scheme, adding only golden or yellow belt, middle of the backpack, elbows and knees, and mostly changing the visor color to black. Last year, a unique variant of second generation figure surfaced, painted so odd that we may suspect it was kind of an experimental wave, a true offspring of the early 1990s breakdown. Elektrospółdzielnia produced also gun sets for their figures, sold separately in bags pinned to the first generation cards, later also added to the figures. We can find there a copy of the Kenner Boba Fett blaster. In the first generation, it could be made of various colors plastic: black, green, blue, purple or red. In later generations, it came only black, and the last wave Boba Fetts on the glossy blue cards were sold with added G.I. Joe rifle. The weight of the Polish movable rubber Boba Fett is 24 grams, while the bigger plastic Kenner origin weighs only 20 grams. Polish Boba Fett figure Elektrospółdzielnia series is a great subject to collect, especially the first and second generations or the color variants of the gun. Yet not many carded examples are known. We may hope more to come in the future. This is the way.
Tuta, Miszka, Jabba the Hutt?
Cześć! Dziś nauczymy się wymawiać dwa bardzo interesujące słowa: elektrospółdzielnia i szczawiowa. Pierwsze z nich jest nazwą firmy, która produkowała jedną z najważniejszych serii polskich figurek z Gwiezdnych Wojen. Nazwa ta jest dwuczłonowa, co było bardzo charakterystyczne dla polskich przedsiębiorstw w latach 80. Człon pierwszy, elektro, dotyczy wszelkich przedmiotów związanych z elektroniką. Człon drugi to po prostu rodzaj organizacji zrzeszającej ludzi i instytucje w ramach wspólnej działalności. Mimo tej nazwy firma zajmowała się głównie produkcją gumowych zabawek, w tym figurek z Gwiezdnych Wojen. Nazwa zawiera charakterystyczną dla języka polskiego zbitkę liter, którą wymawiamy jako jedną głoskę – dzi. Takich zbitek w języku polskim jest więcej i to one sprawiają najwięcej kłopotów w jego nauce. Każdy zagraniczny kolekcjoner powinien umieć wymówić tę nazwę poprawnie. A zatem el, ele, elek, elekt, elektr, elektro, elektros, elektrosp, elektrospół, elektrospół, elektrospółdzi, elektrospółdzie, elektrospółdziel, elektrospółdzielny, elektrospółdzielni, elektrospółdzielnia, elektrospółdzielnia. Akcent tradycyjnie kładziemy na drugą sylabę od końca. Drugi wyraz to nazwa potrawy, którą uczymy się gotować w niniejszym epizodzie, a którą z pewnością zajadali się pracownicy elektrospółdzielni w latach 80. Szczawiowa to rodzaj kwaskowatej zupy, której głównym składnikiem jest roślina o nazwie szczaw. W nazwie tej znajdują się aż dwie zbitki dwuliterowe i to obok siebie – szy oraz czy, razem szczy. Spróbujmy więc. Szy, szczy, szcza, szczaw, szczawi, szczawio, szczawiow, szczawiowa, szczawiowa. Tutaj również akcent pada na drugą sylabę od końca. Napiszcie w komentarzach, jak poszło Wam wymawianie tych dwóch wyrazów.
I got a bad feeling about this.
The art of musical cover is as old as the music itself. Some melodies and pieces became more popular than others and served as a model for later arrangements and transcriptions. One of them was Mantovana, very popular 16th century Italian song. Since 17th century, it was used by many composers to their own arrangements and covers. And in the 19th century, it became even more famous when Bedřich Smetana used it for his symphonic poem The Moldau. We can also hear Mantovana as an inspiration for the melody of Israel national anthem. The original text contains a universal message about waiting for bad time to fly away and hope for a big relief. I thought it could be a good reason to create a free fantasy upon an imagined adventure of Boba Fett and other bounty hunters involving a well-known carbonite motif. Bad time, relief, good time. It's all there in this little Baroque tune. Enjoy! Fuggi, fuggi, fuggi da questo cielo, aspro e duro, spietato gelo. Fuggi, fuggi, fuggi da questo cielo, aspro e duro, spietato gelo. Tu che tutto imprigioni e leghi, per pianto ti frangi o pieghi, piedi diranno, geleranno. Fuggi, fuggi, fuggi là dove verno, sulle rive a seggio eterno. Vieni, vieni, candida, vien vermiglia, tu del mondo sei maraviglia. Vieni, vieni, candida, vien vermiglia, tu del mondo sei maraviglia. Tu nemica d'amare muoie dall'anima delle gioie, messager per primavera, tu sei dell'anno la giovinezza, tu del mondo sei la vaghezza.
As they return in time.
Tukan dolan ludan dulang dudang dulang dudang.
Today we will learn how to cook szczawiowa, one of the most controversial of Polish soups, very popular in 1980s Poland. Not everyone likes it because of unpleasant look, but once you try it, you will love the taste. The taste is sour, caused by a plant called sorrel, very popular on Polish fields and meadows. You just add this plant to the usual bone broth and serve it with boiled eggs and potatoes. It is a perfect dish on spring or summer rainy day, just like the weather on Camino Planet. You have to be careful though if you have kidney problems or arthritis, because the sorrel reacts strongly with calcium. In larger amounts, it won't be digested, even by Sarlak himself. So, are you ready to make this acid soup? Let's go!
I have spoken.